This is the October 8th, 2024 regular meeting of the Palo Alto Unified School District Board of Education. The board will recess into closed session and discuss conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D1, case number 524CV909. Conference with legal counsel, consideration of complaint against employee pursuant to Government Code 54957B1. Employee discipline, dismissal, release, leaves pursuant to Government Code 54957B1, and student discipline or other confidential student matter pursuant to Ed Code 35146. The board will reconvene at approximately 6:30. This is the October 8th, 2024 regular meeting of the Palo Alto Unified School District Board of Education. The board met in closed session and voted 5-0 to approve the grade change appeal regarding student number 950-32438. Can I get a motion now to approve the agenda order?
So moved. Second.
Okay, let's vote. Student board members, preferential vote.
Aye. Aye.
Colleagues, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, agenda order is approved. Now move on to student board member reports.
Hi, I'm Yunso, and here is an update on what's been happening at Gunn. In the past few weeks, the student government held the staff versus student volleyball game, and actually staff took the win, so that was really surprising. And it was great seeing how some of my teachers have really great volleyball skills as well. We also had the Oktoberfest Festival held by German Club, and for an update on construction, the ballpark glidings have been installed, and food and services building is still on track to open next semester. On a different note, Principal Stratton and I have been able to push out the student advisory board, and so far we have around 20 students who are interested, and this would be an opportunity for students to gather with Principal Stratton and I to discuss any issues they would like me to bring up at board meetings on a biweekly basis. And as usual, our cell phone ad hoc committee has been meeting once a month. The next meeting is actually tomorrow, and it includes students, parents, teachers, and the plan that they will develop will go into action this March. Some things to look forward to at Gunn in the next couple of weeks, as Gunn admin will be holding a forum in November regarding evidence-based grading, and this will be a listening session for students to talk. And also there will be the Friday Principals Coffee for both parents and students who have any questions. And lastly, but not least, we are on track for homecoming, which is happening in 2 weeks on the last week of October. Our theme is California Dreamin', and the theme video is really great. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure to do that. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I hope you're all having a great day. So a little update on what's going on at Pali. Pali ASB recently selected our Diversity and Wellness Commissioner, which is Nathan Lee, and our 2 Publicity Commissioner, which is Kiyathri Raj and Rohit Samgupta. And then ASB is also working really hard to prepare for Spirit Week, which starts this Friday. This includes designing and selling class t-shirts and jerseys where the designs are based on the theme that each class chose earlier this year. The seniors sold the most, with having sold 380 jerseys. We are also holding a spirit swap, which is where students donate their past spirit gear for students in other grades, helping to reduce waste. With Spirit Week, there's also homecoming dance, along with the homecoming asking competition. The theme for Hokon is Casino Night. And then a little update about Pali Sport is that the varsity boys football team ended preseason with a 4-1 record, so really great job to them. And then varsity girls volleyball is in the top 10 team in Northern California. Some other updates with Pali organizations and events is that the social justice program recently went on their camping trip, which was a great bonding experience. And the Asian American mental health event was very successful with 250 people in attendance. Pali Journalism also hosted NorCal Media Day, a conference for student journalism and publication in Northern California. Staff is also preparing for development next week, Monday, where staff will be working on evidence-based grading, AI usage, ways to enhance student and teacher life, and literacy in all subjects. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, superintendent's report.
Mine is easy tonight. Starting our next meeting, we'll have 3 board reps sitting at the table. And we had talked about maybe rotating, but we decided not to. Let's just have all 3 because it's going to be fun. But tonight, not seated at the table, one last observation night. I do want to introduce you to our selected board rep from our Middle College High School. So Ash, why don't you come on up and say a few words for us?
Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing amazing tonight. My name is Ash Bala and I am a junior. I will be the student representative for the district's new high school. Sorry.
Testing 1, 2.
Okay. So I was saying, I am Ash Bala, I am a junior and I will be the student representative for the district's new high school, Palo Alto Middle College. I'm so grateful to be in this room with all of you. I will be joining the board next meeting, and I'm so excited and ready to represent PAMC. Thank you.
That's it.
Anything else? Okay. Okay, now we're going to move on to staff reports. So we have the Smart Social presentation.
Yes, we are lucky to partner with Smart Social and Josh Oakes. And I just met with Josh recently, and he shared some analytics about our engagement in Palo Alto. And I wanted him to share that, just talk a little bit about what he does for us. It's really such a great resource for our community and for our school district. And we're so lucky to have a partnership with Josh. Josh is a person I've known for quite a while and one of the people I just really respect in the world. And I'm just happy he's working with us. So Josh, if you are there and I can see your screen up, it is all
Hello.
yours.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Austin. And hello, everyone. I'm live in Los Angeles. I'm told that I have 5 minutes and I'll keep it under that. We host for your school district 54 plus live parent events and replays around social media safety. It's what I've dedicated my team and my life to, teaching kids how to be safe on the internet. We have teen-led video lessons in our program at smartsocial.com and social media videos and a parent newsletter that we put a lot of effort into. I want to show you one more slide, and then we're going to show you a recap of what parents are saying about our events so that you can understand what's going on in the community. So when I stopped flying the country and started producing these live so parents could join in from all over the country, here's what principals started saying. Josh, we had 50 social media incidents per year last year on our campus. Now with Smart Social, we're down to 5 incidents, and I have more time to be a school principal again. For your district, we are providing 54 live events on different topics. Gone are the days of one safety night a year, and then a parent misses the event, and there's no replay, and that parent is left in the dark. That is never happening again. We now have 12 different languages. We're in English, Espanol, Mandarin, and 12 other, I think about 10 other languages, if my math is correct. And we're on all of the hottest topics. Okay, so let's dive into what your community is saying. This is our dashboard that every one of you board members can totally have access to. If you need this at the end, you can contact Dr. Austin and we'll get you a login and all this great stuff. But as we scroll down, we see what real parents are saying about this. Forgive me, it will continually revolve. I'm going to read the one in the middle, and this may be small on your screen, so I'm going to read the one right in the middle, if you could follow along. Amy from Jane Lathrop Stanford Middle School says, I've learned in a live event how to think about screen time not as the enemy, but how to use it productively. The landscape of how technology, in particular social media, interacts with young minds is changing significantly. As a parent of 2 kids, it's vital for us to learn the nuances of how to position ourselves to educate our kids that these tech have positive influence rather than negative. That's from Ramesh. And then ANSHU, forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, from one of your elementary schools says the contract between parents and children and the rule setting for social media access was helpful. I also want to watch the replays on how social media can be used by students to showcase strengths for colleges and jobs. We have 450 replays in our program, all translated as well for parents of just any background. My experience has been incredible on these events. As a parent, I especially appreciate the clear advice on how to protect my child's privacy online and prevent cyberbullying, which was easy to understand and practical to implement. Because of Smart Social, I learned more about AI tools and how it can be used in my child's education. This parent is Margaret from the elementary school, high school, and a middle school. We've enjoyed the videos and articles on specific social media pitfalls for children. For example, the TikTok challenge, which challenges not to fall for. We found any discussion of cell phone usage and social media pitfalls for middle school and high school teens very useful for starting discussions with our teens about those subjects. We have a lot more in store for you. I don't want to bore you too much, and I'm down to a minute 30 left. This month is anti-bullying month. Your whole school district gets it complimentary. Dr. Austin will be my guest on October 22nd. And also November is Disappearing Messages Month. December is Optimizing Parental Controls Without Invading Your Students' Privacy. January is How to Shine Online to Get a Job just about anywhere you want using your social media accounts in high school. February is Avoiding Strangers in Dangerous Situations. March is Understanding Social Media and AI's Impact. And this is a QR code for anyone in the audience who is a part of the district who wants to join with the complimentary pass that the district has provided. If any parents are watching right now, this is provided to you by Palo Alto. You're welcome to use it, and for our board members as well. And don't miss, in a couple weeks, Dr. Austin will be teaching or guest along for the ride, Combating Online Bullying, Supporting Positive Student Behaviors on Campus and at Home. You can register using that QR code that I have on the screen. Thank you so much for allowing me to join. That's about 4.5 minutes. I'm opening it up to any questions you might have about our platform or how we can improve.
Okay, thank you. We do not have any public comments, so
Great.
discussion.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Josh, we may have something from our school board members.
Yes.
Just a second. Colleagues, anybody have anything?
Just a thank you. Yeah, just thank you.
Okay, all right. Student board reps, anything? No, okay. I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.
Josh, thanks again.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, moving on to item 3B, 2024-25 Senate Bill 359 report.
I just want to thank Josh again for taking our threat seriously and keeping to 5 minutes. I really enjoyed working with Josh. He did a great job. All right, Dr. Lopez, it is all you.
Thank you, Dr. Austin. This evening, we will be going over the 9th grade math course enrollment. So Senate Bill 359 also knows that the California Mathematics Placement Act of 2015 ensures a fair and transparent math placement for students transitioning from 8th grade to 9th grade. It requires schools to use an objective criteria to avoid placing students, especially from underrepresented groups, into inappropriate remedial classes. This ensures that all students have an equal opportunity to succeed in advanced courses. When reviewing these results over time, it is important to consider the following context. In 2021 through 22-23, the Reimagining Math plan rolled out 1 grade level per year. In 23-24, the first Reimagining Math cohort entered 9th grade. And this year, the second Reimagining Math cohort is entering 9th grade. Key takeaways, I should say. Enrollment in geometry and higher level math courses increased across all student groups based on combined data from 2-year spans. For clarity, the higher level math courses included our Geometry Honors, Algebra 2, Algebra 2 Trig A, Algebra 2 Trig H, Intro to Analysis, and Analysis Honors. The following is the combined data across 2-year spans. We streamlined our analysis by combining data from 21-22, 22-23, and 23-24, 24-25. This allows us to present trends across larger student groups in 2 simplified bar charts, making it easier to compare the key results over time. Comparison of course enrollment over time in algebra and geometry and higher level math across all students. So as you can see, our numbers have increased. Course enrollment over time of Hispanic or Latino students. Course enrollment over time of our Black African American students, course enrollment over time of our special education students, and course enrollment over time of our socioeconomically disadvantaged students. Course enrollment, lastly, course enrollment over time by gender. And in this slide, it displays our 24-25 ninth grade course enrollment as of September 23rd, 2024. And this concludes our brief presentation, or update, I should say.
Thank you, Dr. Lopez. We do have 2 public comments, so let's take those. Stephen Davis and then Edith Cohen. And you have 2 minutes, Mr. Davis.
Thank you. It was disheartening to see in the small print of the one of the detailed reports that actually not all of Palo Alto high school students are included in this report. And there isn't any information on what sort of grades any of the students are getting. This should be a complete report that includes and reports honestly on all students. Parts of our educational track are clearly not discussed here. For example, nor are the outcomes for students who do not succeed in our 8th grade math acceleration program. When are we going to look at our whole math program, and how are we performing for the students who probably need our help and attention most? This is not just students with disabilities, but students who may not be heading to college or those who just struggle with math. There are kids who literally are not in this report, and we don't know how they're doing. Please take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Edith Cohen.
Hello, everyone. I have a comment on the mass update, the SB 359. So the numbers don't add up because enrollment is not really a good metric for where students are at in Palo Alto. The 9th grade mass enrollment numbers show that 85% of our 9th graders are placed in geometry and above. But if we look at where they are at in terms of an objective data, the California State CAS Smarter Balance Test or the MDTP test, they show that 23% of 8th graders were a year or more behind grade level standards, meaning they are at 7th grade level or below. And 44% are just at grade level, meaning they are a year behind 8th grade algebra. So it just doesn't add up. I mean, you can enroll the whole 9th grade class in calculus. It doesn't mean they are ready to calculus, and it doesn't mean they'll gain anything from the class. Only half the students are actually ready for geometry in 9th grade right now. And for the rest, for the other 35% that are placed in geometry without even being ready for algebra, you're just harming them. So I think this should be revisited. Again, enrollment is not a good metric, especially when there is no lower path. You don't give them a good option in 8th grade. So I think the program should be revisited with more support at elementary school until all kids are actually ready for 8th grade algebra. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cohen. I'm going to take my colleagues' comments, but I just wanted to ask one clarification question. Dr. Lopez, on one of the charts, I didn't see, have any students laned down from geometry to algebra this year?
As of when the report was created in September 23rd, no, that is a no.
Okay, so the students have stayed in geometry through the checkpoint?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to take some comments. We'll start over here. Mr. Collins, Ms. Siegel, anyone? Okay, we'll start over here. Okay, now back to you. Oh, you want to? Okay.
Yeah, I have comments.
Okay.
I mean, if they want me to go first, I'm happy to go first. Thank you so much for these data. It's always really interesting to see. It's it's nice to see that the assessments that we're giving are actually impacting some placements, right? Some kids are moving up, some kids are moving down. It tells us that very likely, it's impossible to get it perfectly every time. And it's nice to know that the assessments we're giving are actually better placing kids to where they should be, which is great. I'm noticing that a lot of our students who have progressed the furthest beyond our standard level, there's a disproportionate number of boys versus girls. I am not going to venture to guess why that is. There are 100 reasons I can think of why that might be, but it's interesting, and I think it'll be really interesting for staff to continue to pay attention to that and see if there's anything we as a district are doing to make that happen, or whether that's, lots of other forces. It's just interesting. We don't want to have a gender gap because of anything we're doing, obviously. So one question I've got, actually, someone noted in public comment, I know that I don't think this includes all students with disabilities, because I know that there are some 8th graders who take SAI. I think it's Algebra 1 SAI, but it's an SAI class. And I am really curious to where they wind up in 9th grade. I don't know if that's something you know right now or something you can get us later. But if you are in an 8th grade SAI class, where are those kids this year now that they are in 9th grade?
And you are correct. So that's something that we can get into, include that in our future reports. But yeah, we could definitely get that data. Great.
I think that would be really interesting to, I'm sure it depends on the transitional IEP from 8th grade to 9th grade, but it would be interesting to see where that is. My big takeaway with this report is aligns with what we started seeing last year. This change we made has opened the doors for so many more of our students, significantly our HUR students, to the option of taking calculus if that's what they want in the future, right? That they are on track to be able to complete calculus, which is exactly what we wanted to provide. And the numbers are showing us that there is a significant increase in the students that have this option. That is a stunning success in the measure that we initially were looking at. Of course, the Reimagine program is not perfect, and we need to continue to tweak around the edges. And my understanding is that our middle school math teachers are doing exactly that work right now. So I look forward to hearing what they come back with as a model of continuous improvement. But the stunning success that these data show us are really encouraging. Thank you.
Now it is your guys' turn. Which one of you is going first? Okay, Mr. Collins.
Thanks for the report. That was really interesting. I actually been wondering about this data because I think we were supposed to see it last year, but it doesn't matter. So it is a significant change, and you usually don't see significant changes in enrollment patterns. So I think the fact that we did see one is very notable. I disagree with one of the people who commented. I do think course enrollment is a meaningful thing to measure. I think when you look across the country at initiatives around improving access to math, advanced course enrollment ends up being a very important thing that people measure. It has tremendous impact on people's access to college and access to majors once they are in college. So access to advanced courses starts with access to the foundational courses like algebra. So I think, and geometry. So I think the fact that we've increased enrollment in those courses in the 9th grade is very important, and I think it represents a success of the initiative. That said, I think also student achievement in the courses they take is also very important. Two things can be true. And I remember when we last looked at this last year, the aspect scores of the low-income students in the 8th grade courses were not what we wanted them to be. And in fact, we're still down versus prior to the pandemic. And that's obviously something that I think we need to address. I do think, I think the caller mentioned this as well, and I think this is right, that the ultimate solution for that, or the most fruitful approach ultimately, is addressing our elementary math instruction and making sure that all students arrive in middle school with a very strong foundation, a very solid foundation to build on. As one of my academic friends says, foundations aren't much, but if you don't have one, now, there aren't much to look at, but if you don't have one, anything you build on it will fall down. And I think that's as true in education as it is in house construction. So ultimately, I think looking at our elementary math, as I know we're starting to do, is seems to me to be a very fruitful area for to improve not just access to courses, but success in the courses that people are accessing. But I do, we can have more than one measure of success, and I think measuring access to courses is a very important measure, and we've clearly moved the needle on that. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had one just kind of clerical question, which is when did we first start offering the first 30 days ninth grade math checkpoint? How long has this been part of our practice?
So for best practices, so as soon as school begins, we traditionally wait about 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks once because the students have about 2 weeks as soon as school begins to be able to change their schedule. So once the schedules have been finalized and done, then we will begin, once we identify the class that they're in, then we begin conducting the first read-day check.
Yeah, that makes sense. As a former teacher, sometimes that first couple of weeks you're doing more get to know you activities, things like that. So I want to celebrate that enrollment in geometry and higher level math courses increased across all student groups and that more students are now on the calculus track. I think that is great. I also noticed that out of 847 students total tested, only 39 students were misplaced based on this test. And so to me, it's very promising to see that only 5% of students were misplaced. Usually I would expect just, somebody could end up in the wrong class. So I wanted to celebrate that. And then I just have a couple questions after looking at the data. So algebra still has the highest D and F rate with approximately 10% of 8th graders receiving D's and F grades. As I've been saying since last June when the secondary grades were released, this happened even after the request to the PAUSD Algebra PLC last November to adjust the passing criteria by setting the floor for passing the class to basic level of algebra without reducing the rigor of difficulty. So in response, the Algebra PLC decided to develop basic level tests focused on 7 essential learning topics. And then students who demonstrated 100% proficiency on these topics with unlimited retake opportunities were granted a passing grade regardless of their performance on other tests and homework. So this policy aimed to provide students with a second chance to pass the class at a level slightly below proficient. So even though our teachers and staff are working hard to address the F grades and the disproportionality of F grades, the high number of failing grades and disproportionality exists. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because of a question I have, which is 80 of our 8th graders last year got a DRF in 8th grade algebra, but 126 students are currently enrolled in 9th grade algebra. I thought those numbers would be closer. And so there's this 5 percentage point disconnect as there are 46 additional students. So I'm wondering, maybe you don't know this off the top of your head, but are these 46 students repeating algebra even though they got a passing grade? Could it be connected to the policy I just mentioned? Do you have any insight into that?
So I would say there's different variables to that. We could have some new enrollees into our district as well.
Okay.
So there's many variables for us to be able to identify as to why, but.
Okay, I'd be interested in, just because the number 46, if it's 40 new enrollees versus 5, it would be interesting to understand how many students are repeating algebra who already passed it and understanding the why. And then my other question is, I didn't see any no marks. Are no marks given in algebra but not reported in the data, or are we not, or did I miss the no marks while looking through?
No marks were not included in this report. I'm not sure what you.
Okay.
Because it's too early in the year, right? Yeah. Because we're looking.
No, I meant no marks from, yes, yeah.
I think it eventually turns into an F or a passing grade.
Okay.
Right? Doesn't forever stay in it.
Got it. Okay, so that's why I
Sorry,
didn't,
but
that's
I was
helpful,
trying
just
to-
to understand why it's not being
I didn't
included.
mean to speak out of turn.
No, but that's,
I'm
no,
just
no.
trying to think like.
It's helpful to know. And as my colleagues have said, and we've been talking about, I believe since I've been on the board, focusing on addressing elementary math, I think will be key. And as I've discussed before, math specialists for struggling students could be something that could be part of this, looking at the curriculum, as we've been saying, needs to happen and will happen. And I also did notice the gender disparity, and I do appreciate you for calling that out as well to make sure that there's a lot of factors, but just looking at our practices and making sure we are not contributing to this factor. And thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Have more comments over here? Go ahead. Okay. Mr. Brianza, okay.
All right, I realized that I forgot to mention one thing. The thing that I brought up last year is that even though we're looking at, it was our first year of students taking geometry, but my curiosity as a math person is how the kids that are in reimagining math do when they get to Algebra 2. Do they have success in Algebra 2? So that's, for many of them, I mean, for the majority of them, this is the year that that first cohort is now in Algebra 2. So I look forward to, from my living room, watching on YouTube, while maybe next summer, the next board asks for results of how the kids did in Algebra 2 once they've been through this new reimagining system, right? And if we have an issue there with, wow, kids are really struggling in Algebra 2 because the way that we offered Algebra 1 to 8th graders really didn't prepare them for Algebra 2, or like, wow, they're knocking it out of the park, right? And it'll be really interesting to see that. And I think that'll be, at least as much as enrollment numbers, how are kids doing when they're in Algebra 2 based on the Algebra 1 that was provided to them in 8th grade.
Student board members, comments? Okay, I have some comments. And a parent said to me recently that we have a PR problem, that we don't celebrate enough when we've done things well. So I want to take a minute to celebrate, maybe a little louder than my colleagues did. First, I want to channel Mr. Dauber, Ken Dauber, who was on this board, last board, and say, here's the headline. For the first two cohorts of Reimagining Middle School Math combined, the percentage of 9th graders enrolled in geometry or above has increased by over 20% for every subgroup. So I did this math myself based on these charts. 28.9% of 9th grade Latino students were enrolled in geometry or above before this change. This increased to 56.9% after. 32.2% of Black students were enrolled before, 55.5% after. 14% of special education students before, 38% after. 29% of socioeconomically disadvantaged students before, 55% after. Hold your applause, because this is what I want you to give the applause. Middle school math teachers. Now you can applaud. Let's applaud. Middle school math teachers? Yes. I know what a heavy lift this has been and continues to be for all of you, and I don't want to minimize that or sugarcoat it. And we need to celebrate you and what you have done. The percentages I just recited represent students who now have the opportunity to reach their academic potentials where before they did not. At 12 years old, they would have been laned out of a path to calculus, and now they aren't. They might not all stay on that path, but because of the teachers that I'm talking to, they now have the same opportunity that their peers have always had. They have the opportunity to try. When Melissa Batten Caswell voted in favor of reimagining middle school math, she warned future boards that if this doesn't work, we can't go back to the old way because we know the old way didn't work. We have decades of data proving her right about the old way. We only have 2 years of data with this new way, but even so, in fact, even before we implemented it, the criticism has been loud and relentless. And recently, the increase in D's and F's in 8th grade algebra has been held up as evidence that the new way is a failure and we need to go back to laning. So let me repeat the headline. The percentage of 9th grade students enrolled in geometry or above has increased by over 20% for every subgroup. And as Dr. Lopez just responded to my question, so far this year, none of those kids have laned back down. These students are why the change was made and who it was made for. How do they benefit from going back to a system that denied them the same opportunities for math acceleration as their peers? We have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We must be able to improve math instruction and supports in middle and elementary school, like my colleagues have mentioned, while also refusing to go backwards to a system that sacrificed the potential of way too many students. Another common criticism of reimagining middle school math is that it has dumbed down math education in PAUSD. Let me just say that I categorically reject the premise that the over 20% more of Black, Latino, special education, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students now enrolled in geometry and above don't deserve to be there, and that they only made it because we decreased academic rigor. Both our students and our teachers deserve more respect than that. It reminds me of the criticisms that we heard from some community members when we saw similarly impressive increases with the Every Student Reads initiative. Something was wrong with the data, we were told. We're cooking the numbers. Why is it so hard to believe that these groups of students can learn? That maybe all along the problem has not been with them, but with us. With both Every Student Reads and middle school math, we have moved a needle that has never moved before. We're talking decades, half a century even. So I'm going to repeat a version of Ms. Batten-Caswell's warning to future boards, including the one that will be elected next month. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Have the humility, please, to recognize that if you take us back to the old way, you're taking us back to the old outcomes. You are sending a message to the 20% more Black, Latino, special education, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students now in geometry and above that they are not worth the growing pains, discomfort, and really hard work of systemic change. By putting all of our students together in the same classrooms, reimagining middle school math has forced us to confront very real deficiencies in PAUSD math education that impact many of our students. You will get no disagreement from me on this. But going back to the old way is not going to fix those deficiencies. What it will do is make the kids grappling with them invisible again. Just as we finally started to see them and hold ourselves accountable for educating them. So the next board is going to have a choice. You can be the board that leans into the only success our district has ever had with moving the needle towards educational justice. Or you can be the board that goes back to the old way and gives up on these kids for another half a century. The choice is not going to be easy. Nothing engenders more passionate debate in our school district than math, with the recent exception of bathrooms. From the moment you are elected, you will be under an immense amount of pressure to ignore or minimize the data about 9th grade geometry placement, or explain it away, or give it less weight than different data about different students. I hope that you choose to remain focused on why the change was made in the first place and who it was made for. Reimagining middle school math has increased access and opportunity for the groups of students historically denied both in our district. The change gave these kids a chance to try. And look what they did with it. They rose to the occasion. And I hope the next board does the same. Thank you. It's my birthday. Now we have open forum. All right, now we're moving on to open forum, and we have 7 comments, so 2 minutes each. Stephen Davis, Gerardo Velasquez, and Dean Loomis.
Follow that, Mr. Davis.
I want to apologize. Usually I'm on a script for this, and I just couldn't figure out a way to get this one going. Someone from the district shared with me a story about a substitute at their school, and this substitute had been asked to step into a learning center to cover it for a couple hours, and they refused. They said, I have too much empathy, apparently, to teach students with disabilities for a couple hours. I know that there is discrimination and active problems for students with disabilities. I've experienced it directly with our teachers. I have heard it directly and indirectly from other parents. And even within the disability community, there is an unfortunate hierarchy of disability where some disabled people are considered less worthy than others. And doing something about that is hard, but it is critical. One thing that occurred to me when I was thinking about this and reflecting on it was that somehow this substitute teacher had come to believe that it was acceptable in this school district. And apparently she or he, I don't know which, I apologize for my genderism, felt that they were comfortable with asserting the position that they could freely choose not to teach students with disabilities. And that one kind of bugs me at a different level. I have no answers here, and I kind of don't like speaking secondhand, and I am, and so I apologize for that. But this really concerned me deeply, and I hope it concerns you, and I hope I never do it again. Have to talk about it again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. David. Gerardo Velasquez, Dean Loomis, and Miguel Gonzalez.
Hello, my name is Gerardo Velasquez Jr. I have been an employee with Palo Alto Unified for the past 10 years. In the past few years, I have experienced a tremendous amount of harassment by my supervisor, Brett Larson, which include making fun of my appearance, making fun of my weight, and making fun of my race and my sexual orientation. I am asking the Palo Alto Unified School District to stop this immediately. This has been brought to the attention of my previous supervisor and human resources. Palo Alto Unified has been a great place to work. Unfortunately, now that is not the case. This has caused a tremendous stress in my life and also mental distress that I had to seek medical treatment for. Thank you for your time.
Sir, please file a complaint. You can do that through HR or you can go through. Okay. All right. Our next speaker is Dean Loomis, Miguel Gonzalez, and Terry Baldwin.
Good evening, everybody. This is so formal. I've never been here. I would have dressed nicer, so I'm sorry. There's a lot of doctors here, too. There's a group of us, it's actually bigger, to complain about this discriminatory behavior. 3 of us came. Like I said, a lot of people are afraid of retaliation and harassment due to coming out and naming names and so forth, right? Me personally, I have filed complaints in the past. In my opinion, they don't go anywhere because it's kept in-house, and I think the way the chief of staff and the HR director of classified HR, they kind of run this thing in between the lines of the board policy that we're all supposed to be following. I'm assuming the board is supposed to be following it too. Hi, Don. I just want to read a quick section of an email I sent to every board member. There's a group of Latino employees who feel mistreated and discriminated against by PAUSD leadership. They asked Mr. Okay, I'll leave his name out. Is PAUSD a racist organization? I can't believe I am even writing this in 2024. It's so gross. If any of you are at all concerned and are willing to meet with a group of Latino employees who, sorry, I shouldn't have ate that hummus, who feel they are treated like second-class citizens and feel discriminated against, please respond and we will meet. Thank you. Nobody responded on the board. I guess maybe people are afraid of meeting with a group of Latinos for some weird reason in 2024. It's not 1954 anymore. This issue isn't going to go away, by the way. It's going to keep coming back until it's resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Loomis. Miguel Gonzalez, Terry Baldwin, Tom Culbertson.
Hi, my name is Miguel Gonzalez. I'm working for Palo Alto Unified for 6 years, and I'm here to complain about Bray Larson, our supervisor. He harassing us, he discriminated us, and the last thing he told me a couple weeks ago, he say, watch your back, and the union is not here to protect you, is not here to do nothing for you. So all I ask him for is for help. To somebody help us, because this is been for like 4 years already, and we don't know what to do. We went to HR and they refused to help us. So we are here now. It's not easy for me to be here, but I'm here to support what my coworker says, and that didn't say is more of us about this and suffering about this. So all I asking for is somebody to help us. Thank you.
I'm just going to repeat what I said to your colleague. Please file a complaint through the processes in our policies. Thank you. Terry Baldwin, Tom Culbertson, Nicole Chu Wong.
Thank you. Terry Baldwin, President of the Palo Alto Educators Association. Thank you. Have just two things. One is the heat. I know everyone knows about that. We've had rooms in the 90s. If we could kind of speed up that air conditioning installment process, 2028 is a long time to wait to finish that. So it's really hard. We had one teacher, it was 98, with 3 fans, a ceiling fan, and some kind of air something or other. So if we could do that. But I'm also here because I'd like to highlight another program that's going on. In June, a group of work experience students were invited to Google headquarters by the work experience teacher, Rachel Casey. During that trip, 2 rising juniors, now juniors, created the innovative idea to design a coding lessons for elementary students with the goal of increasing awareness for girls in STEM. With the approval of Guns Administration and 2 amazing 4th grade teachers, Tom Culbertson, who's here, and Rachel Caldera, who are at Juana Briones, the gun students presented their first lesson on Friday, September 13th. So I just really wanted to highlight that and explain, and just really, we have great teachers, but we also have these amazing students. So I just wanted to celebrate them. So thank you.
Can I just say thank you for celebrating the teachers and the great programs. We don't all know what's going on, and a lot of the community doesn't. So I appreciate it.
Tom Culbertson, Nicole Chu Wong. I think that's all my open forum comments.
Hi, everyone. I'll just be brief. I just wanted to build on what President Terry Baldwin was talking about. The thing that's really inspiring about this is observing these great gun students, their authentic voice, the mentorship that they're providing to my students and Rachel Caldera's students. It's really inspiring, and I'm really enjoying interacting with these great young people. The thing that made it happen is this great collaboration between these educators. And this is what we do every day, and we come together to serve our students as best we can and find ways to get them what they need every single day. So I just really want to celebrate my colleagues for jumping through all the hoops necessary to make this happen.
Thank you. Nicole Chu Wong.
Good evening. I'll be brief. I just wanted to celebrate and uplift something that happened over the weekend. YCS had an amazing event called Beyond the Books at the Mitchell Park Community Center. I saw quite a few of you there and quite a few of the people in the audience and many community members. It was largely driven by our youth talking about mental health and wellness in our district, and I know that is a priority of our school district, and so I wanted to applaud the work that YCS and our students did that went into it, and I hope it continues more conversations, but it was workshops, it was booths for other organizations for people to find resources. I got this great button there. They had all these worksheets and things for kids of all ages, and it's this kind of intergenerational and cross-cultural and full community participation that I think will really make a difference. So I just wanted to thank YCS and the students.
Thank you.
You're celebrating yourselves and others tonight.
No,
You really love it.
That, I believe, was our last open forum comment. So now we're going to move on to approval of the consent calendar, and we do have one comment. So let me just get a motion on the table. Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Okay. Second? Have a second? Did you second?
Could you second?
I'm going to amend the motion.
Okay. Could someone second?
Okay.
Okay.
Now we can discuss.
Great. Now we
Public
can
comment. So we have one public comment, Stephen Davis.
I have a couple comments on a couple of items, of course. On items C and D, those are the staff changes. I want to highlight that there were 2 special education teacher resignations and 2 special education aide resignations. These are basically the only turnover in classroom staff. I really look forward to someday looking in more detail into the turnover data for our special education employees. On item I, wanted to be celebratory. Apparently that's the thing tonight. Congratulations on the CTE Career Technical Education Grant. Looking forward to hear more about the scope and effectiveness of these programs in an upcoming board meeting. Item J, similarly, I hope that we will have more detailed reporting on the outcomes from College Now, and I would expect a lot more of that on CT outcomes for middle college as that rolls out. Item K, we need to move to a standard for accessible instructional materials so our special education teachers do not spend their time making materials accessible on a case-by-case basis. It is much better that they spend their time teaching. By definition, inaccessible materials reduce the accessibility and opportunities for inclusion for all students with disabilities and increase the cost of providing services. If all instructional materials are not accessible and out of the box for all students, they should not be considered sufficient. Next. It is great, item M, it is great that Palo Alto supports the education program for the patients and families at the Lucille Packard Children's Hospital. However, the board and the public deserve more meaningful reporting on the effectiveness of outcomes for this program and how we support those families. And finally, on behalf of my daughter's experienced the Second Step program and has nothing good to say about it or the presentation of the materials by PAUSD
Thank
teachers.
you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
Maybe send us that last part, board@pausd.org. Okay, colleagues, any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to amend the motion.
Okay.
To pull item M.
M, which one's M?
M is in mama.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, so now, what do we do?
Vote on the first.
Vote on the amendment.
Okay, so board member preferential vote on the amendment to pull item M.
Aye.
Yeah, first we have to vote on the amendment so that we have a new motion.
Right. So, yeah, you're right.
Aye.
Okay, colleagues?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So now can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar without item M?
So moved.
Student board members preferential vote?
Aye.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Colleagues? Aye. Okay. So now we're moving to action, which I think is when we discuss now item M, right? Or you want to discuss it or you want to just pull it?
No, I want
You
to
want to
discuss
discuss
it.
it? Okay,
Yeah.
let's discuss it.
But I just,
We're moving into action, right? It's our action.
Let's just,
Okay.
can we take it up first before Coverly?
I think we
Ridge
have
is
to,
good?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I only wanted to pull this to highlight it for members of the community who may not be familiar with, we have a comment? Well, this is the MOU between PAUSD and the Lucille Packard Children's Hospital. And folks in the community may not know that PAUSD runs the Children's Hospital School. And it's just a really awesome program everyone should know about, because there are a small group of students who are permanently or for long periods of time in the Lucille Packard Children's Hospital. And the way that they get their teaching and learning is from us through this MOU. And I had the opportunity to be the liaison to that in one of my first few years on the board. And it really is just a very heartening experience to go and see the kids there. We spend all of our time here doing the business of the district, and in terms of dollars and in terms of resources, that is very small business, but it's very big heart. So I just want to highlight it, and that's the only reason I pulled it.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve item 5?
So moved.
So moved. Can I have a second?
Second.
Student board members, preferential vote.
Aye. Aye.
Colleagues, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right.
Are we going to celebrate every item tonight?
Yes, this is a good night.
Because we're set up perfectly for the next one.
Exactly, which I hope is going to be a celebration. Let's move to approval of the term sheet for sale of 7 acres of Cumberly.
Never heard of it.
Okay. If people would have said that we would have dramatically increased the access for math, raised reading scores to unparalleled success, the Padres would be in the playoffs. And they might be winning 6-5 right now. And that we were going to reach a deal on Cumberly, most people would have said, there's no chance on Cumberly. Oh, man, but here we are. I was going to take us through like some history on Cumberly, but why? Yeah. A resounding crowd reaction. I love it. Here's all that matters. The city expressed an interest in obtaining an additional 7 acres. I think that there's great reasoning for that, wanting to do something with a potential community center to serve our city of Palo Alto. The school district said that they would entertain offers and start that process. We had ad hoc committees with members of our school board and city council members. And I'd like to thank Dr. DiBrienza and Mr. Drop for serving on those, and the entire school board for engaging and being patient as we worked through it. And also Mr. Shikata, the city manager, who I'm going to invite up here in just a second. We decided it'd be a good idea if he came to my meeting. I didn't go to his, but my heart was there, Mr. Shikata. But really the work that went into this, and just quickly, the high points, the deal is contingent on the city coming up with the funds, which I'll let Mr. Shikata speak to the mechanism that would happen in. If that doesn't happen, then we retain ownership. If it does, then they'll get the 7 acres. The short version is the buildings plus land. We do have a picture I can put up here right now, just real quickly. And we've agreed that the outline there, that yellowish, orangish space is likely the space, but we could talk about the parking shifting to the back. We'll figure that out later. And of course, this is not surveyed at this point, so there's some work to do, but it's conceptually we have agreement, and the purchase price ends up being $65.5 million. But a lot of work went into this, and ultimately we're this close to having it done, depending on the vote here in a moment, but really excited for a whole lot of reasons, some of which are jokes and some of which are really, I do think this is a great thing for the entire community and our school district and the city. I think when we walk out there's a thing in negotiations that if both sides feel like they got the short end, then that's good negotiations. And I totally disagree with that. And I think in this case, both sides should feel great about where they are and how we came out of this, and that the city, the community is the winner. But at this time, I would like to bring Mr. Shikata up, say a few words, and again, thank him for his partnership as we work together closely on a lot of topics that intersect between the school district and the city, and he's always been a fantastic partner. So, Mr. Shikata.
Well, with that introduction, thank you very much, Dr. Austin, members of the board. I was actually just really here as the embodiment of belt and suspenders. In case you had any questions, last minute curveballs you wanted to throw, no offense to the Padres. But that's it with Dr. Austin's introduction. Just on the funding, as noted, the sale is dependent on the voters' approval of a measure that we'll bring forward in November of 2026 that would enable the proceeds for the sale to be both identified and then put into motion the transaction. For those who want an immediate action to do, I would note that the likely voter threshold for that measure in November of 26 would be lowered if Proposition 5, which is on this November's ballot, were to pass. It would be lowered to 55%. So it's not dependent on that passing, but if you are looking for something to do in the immediate future, that is an action that could be taken. Beyond that, I just really am here also to express appreciation on behalf of the city to the school board, and Dr. Austin in particular, members of the ad hoc committee. I suspect this may have been a challenging process and effort to get through. So that said, I really appreciate the board sticking with us through this, not only to identify the steps forward on a transaction, but really a roadmap going forward that will lead to improvement of this facility for the Palo Alto community. So with that, back to you, Dr. Austin.
I'll just finish up with the proceeds when everything hopefully goes through. Can only be used for capital improvements, so this is not an increase to the general fund that can be used on other things such as salaries, benefits. It is prohibited for that purpose. At this point, I'm done. I can take any questions, or we can just move along.
We do have two community comments, so let's take those. Allison Cormack and Nicole Chu Wong.
Delightful to be here on a celebratory evening. What a great time. As I told the City Council last night, together you are leaping over a hurdle that has stymied progress for decades. And let's be honest, much of the credit for this accomplishment goes to this board and the staff who have worked to make it happen. Thank you. Thank you for tackling this shared problem and for coming up with a shared solution. This is absolutely the right thing for our whole community and long overdue, so bravo to the 5 of you for getting it done on your watch. A few years ago, little history, I read all the available information on prior attempts to redevelop Cubberley and started attending city school liaison meetings when the former Melissa Baton Caswell was there, so thanks for mentioning that earlier. And I made this issue part of my council platform. And in 2019, we collectively generated a master plan, but the pandemic hit, and then understandably, we had a lot of different things we needed to focus on. And that's right when the community stepped forward, forming the Friends of Cubberley. Under the leadership of Deborah Simon, their efforts to keep this issue front and center for the school district and the city council have really paid off with this agreement. All of you have worked on this, and tonight and forevermore deserve shared credit. But I also want to personally thank Shaunak Darup and Jennifer DiBrienza, who have really been stalwart champions of getting this done for the community for many years, and a partner to me and the others who've been working on this for so long. This new Middlefield Community Center is really going to be amazing. And yeah, I'm just, well, we're moving forward. People can choose a name. I'm just here to tell you, having done this with the libraries, when you give them a name that's not a place name, it's really hard for people to find it, right? We want to be welcoming, just saying. But the bottom line, it's going to be amazing, and we will have all of you to thank for making it possible. Truly, I'm deeply grateful, and you're going to be glad you did this.
Thank you. Ms. Chu Wong.
My apologies. I try, unlike some of my friends in the audience, I try not to speak more than once a night. But I thought, as someone who a little over 2 years ago urged the district not to be land hoarders, as someone who is a mother and goes to Cubberley 5 days a week to drop off my child at Preschool Family at Greendale, as someone who works 5 days a week at Greendale every week of the year, and often is there 7 days a week because of the amazing programs that are offered on the weekend at Cubberley. As a resident of South Palo Alto, where we will build more housing and need more community spaces, as a homeowner behind Cubberley, I am so grateful that this is happening and excited for what it means for the future of everyone in Palo Alto. So thank you for making this happen. And I particularly want to shout out to City Council and to the school board, because this is an example of a way in which we have division and a lot of opinions and feelings that have been going on for a long time. And to be able to find a way forward, I think is illustrative and something we can hopefully do in many other areas within our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, colleagues, start over here this time. Steve Bergenza.
Thank you. It is nice to start. As a co-chair of the ad hoc committee, along with Councilmember Lithcott-Hames, there are just so many people to thank for this agreement. As so many in our community know, this has been a decades-long journey. We won't go too far back, but I just want to note, we thought we were close at the beginning of my tenure on the board, and Dr. Austin arrived, and pretty early on, he helped us realize that we really got a little bit over our skis, and that we had this beautiful Concordia plan, and given the legal limitations of what the school district can do with land that we don't need for a school, we really could not keep going down the path we were going. And I think that was news to a lot of the board. You know, everyone was excited, we were designing, and so I'm very grateful that was one of the first of many lessons that we learned from Dr. Austin. And so hope was renewed 18 months ago when we reached out to the city to re-engage. And we are grateful that the city council and the city staff did exactly that. Over the course of the past year, our ad hoc has met several times. I want to acknowledge all the members, Ms. Koo, Mr. Burt, Mr. Darup, and especially our chair, Ms. Lithcott-Hames, for her leadership and her determination to see us to an agreement. I also want to acknowledge Ms. Vinker, Councilmember Vinker, who I had the opportunity to speak with several times when we hit some speed bumps, and she was a great thought partner in all of this as well. Perhaps most significantly, I want to acknowledge Dr. Austin and his counterpart on the side, Mr. Shikata, on the city side, Mr. Shikata, without whom this deal would not be in front of us right now. Last spring, we were at a bit of a standstill. We didn't know how best to proceed, and both parties authorized our respective leaders to continue to engage. And by the end of the summer, they had worked magic. We were here. As you may be aware, our city council approved this MOU last night by a vote of 7-0. I expect we are about to do, well, not the same because there's only 5 of us, but about to be unanimous as well. Dr. Austin, thank you. You helped us get here. You helped us do it right. And so the community can take the first steps in getting the community center we all want and need, and the school board could be a responsible steward of one of its most valuable assets. I am grateful to everyone involved.
Other ad hoc committee member.
Thank you. I think a lot about Cubberley as a really great example of how priorities and feasibility of prioritizing goals changes between a campaign and governance. When I ran in 2018 for the first time, Cubberley was a huge issue of mine because it was something that was really important for the community. I was hearing out in the campaign trail. It was really important to me personally, having, I lived close by to Cubberley. My mother-in-law graduated in the last class of Cubberley. It was important, and I wanted something to be done with Cubberley, and that was a campaign priority of mine. When I got elected, and I began to realize the weight of what it means to be a trustee and to have a fiduciary responsibility to the district, my desire to do something with Cubberley didn't change, but the ability that I felt I had to do that did. Because now all of a sudden, and I say this because we're in an election year and we're going to have the majority of the board turn over. So every opportunity I have to at least, impart some insight, that personal opinion of mine, I'd like to take it, and for the public to understand a little bit of that distinction between what you're hearing in the campaigns now and what will actually happen come December. As a fiduciary of the district, the question was, well, is this decision in the best interest of our students? And underlying that was, how can we make this decision in a way that is best for our students? That is the question that took me 6 years to answer. Because really, to say, let's pay for 7 acres of Cubberley to be redone into a community center, leaving aside the legality of that, is that in the best interest of our students within the jurisdiction of the school district? And the answer that I kept bumping up against was no. Can we give away or sell all of this Cubberley land? And of course, we don't need the land. We don't need all of the land now. But what if we do? And the worst case scenario of but what if we do was one that I think kept all the board members from jumping right in and saying, let's do this and let's do it. Let's jump right in and let's turn this whole thing into a giant community center, or help the city do that. And so we were struggling, I think I was certainly struggling with how exactly our role as trustees of the district fits in with personal goals of getting something done in this dilapidated area, also knowing that that would inevitably create a benefit for our students, however ancillary that might be. And so we also struggled as a district and a city in defining what the nature of our relationship was as it relates to Cubberley. Were we neighbors? Were we partners? And we went back and forth like an on again, off again relationship. And all throughout, I think that partnership is the right word, because partners support each other, partners challenge each other, and partners celebrate each other's success. And it was challenging. We definitely challenged each other for 6 years and longer, because each of our scopes, while they overlap, definitely are not identical. And our respective constituencies, while they have overlapping goals and desires, are not the same. And so in that small sliver of overlapping goals was where we could work. And we did in various iterations of ad hoc committees and city school liaison committees. And while this most recent iteration of the ad hoc committee is getting the credit for it, I have to say that Mr. Collins and I were on the first ad hoc committee with Ms. Cormack, who's in the audience today, when she was on council. And really that, to me, is what set the stage for the ongoing discussions. And so a big thanks does go to Ms. Cormack for being there and being the one to push it on the city side all those years ago. And then we had this new iteration, and we worked on it, and it was challenging, and we were both city and district advocating for the best interests of our respective constituents. And we were doing it really well, to the point where I know it was difficult for everyone to envision that this would reach some sort of mutually beneficial goal. A huge, huge amount of the credit goes to Dr. Austin and Mr. Cicada, because while the electeds generally get the credit because we happen to just be sitting here, the real work was Dr. Austin and Mr. Cicada, because we electeds say this is what we want to do, and this is vaguely how we think it could get done. But then they have to go sit in a room and argue with each other for hours and hours to figure out exactly how to make that happen and whether it could happen given the conflicting views of what the end goal is. And so that's the real work. This was a gargantuan lift. It was a team effort. Everybody who touched it participated and contributed to it, from both council and school board, staff, and all the community members who advocated tirelessly along the way. And I'm glad we're celebrating it, and we should celebrate everyone who's involved. And we should also celebrate the community who is going to make the ultimate lift in getting a bond passed. And I want to say that when you look at this deal and you say, well, what are we getting, school district? What are we getting out of it? Is it a benefit to our students? Well, here's the 2 things we're getting, the 3 things we're getting. One, we are doing what the board has always said we need to do to preserve our own interests, and so as not to prejudice future boards and the future district, which is reserve some appreciable amount of space for a potential future school. We don't need it now. We may never need it, but it's better to have it and not need it than to not have it and need it, because we've had that issue in the past before, and it is a far worse situation to be in. We are getting a real benefit if the bond passes of $65.5 million, which is going to go to capital improvements. That is a benefit to our district and our students. And the 7 acres that we are currently, that exist, that we aren't really using, are going to go to the city. And community willing, the city is going to be able to come up with an amazing community benefit there, whatever it may be, that will necessarily serve our students because it will serve their families. So this is this isn't the end of it. This is like the first real step, but it is an amazing one. And everybody who I mentioned and who my colleagues mentioned and whom I haven't mentioned need to be congratulated and celebrated, and then get ready for what's to come to bring this home.
Thank you. Now this way, Mr. Collins. Nothing. Let's see.
Yeah, a lot of it will be repeated, but I would also like to give some thanks. So I want to thank all the previous board members, district staff, and hundreds of community members who worked for decades on finding a solution for Coverly. I also want to thank you, Ms. DiBrienza, and I want to thank you, Mr. Drop, for chairing this committee. And I want to thank the City Council's ad hoc committee. And I also want to acknowledge and thank Dr. Austin and Ed Chicada, who helped us get here today, get across the finish line, navigating the terms of this complicated property and term sheet. As I was, looking through all of this information, I understand the position, never sell real estate in Palo Alto. And yet, from attending Coverly classes myself, starting at age 5, Coverly needs urgent repairs that have not happened. This $65.5 million is an opportunity we haven't had before. And with the proposed PAUSD facility master plan, the school board will have significant time and data to develop a plan for the use of these proceeds, all of which, as we have stated, will go towards improving Palo Alto school facilities, benefiting not just current students, but also future students. Our recent enrollment projections from a February 13th, 2024 board meeting demonstrated that the district faces a downward trend in student enrollment numbers. According to Ms. Chow's report from last February, the district serves 10,271 students, down 47 from 22-23. And the district is projected to lose 200 students in each of the next 3 school years, falling to 9,174 in 2026. So this, combined with the fact that Coverly is in need of urgent repairs, and that our children and community would benefit from a revitalized and vibrant community center, and very importantly, the district is still preserving 20 acres for a future school were we ever to need it. All of these factors make this an exciting and promising opportunity. In addition, the role of the school board is to ensure that our districts are responsive to the values, beliefs, and priorities of their communities. And thus, during this process, I want to stress the importance of community conversations with PAUSD families. I can celebrate the front end of this deal, and now, as I just mentioned before, representing the views of the community, it will be the community, the voters, who determine if it is executed. And I'm very, very excited and optimistic. So I just wanted to, again, thank everyone, decades prior to current, to get us here today. It is an exciting day.
Student board reps? No? All right, well, I'm gonna just talk briefly. Early in my first year on this board, we were asked by staff to approve funding for upgrading the I building at Coverly. And I voted yes, but in what I think was the first and definitely not the last time I made Dr. Austin really mad. I also said in my public comments that I would not support any more requests to fund repairs at Coverly until we made a long-term plan for what we were going to do with the site. Oh, he was so mad at me. At the time, I had no idea whatsoever what that plan might look like. I just knew that we had really run out the clock on kicking the can down the road. So later that same year, in November of 2021, we voted in open session to prioritize retaining 20 or so acres with the goal of transferring the remaining approximately 7 to the city. And so now, 3 years later, here we are. So in my 4 years on this board, we have gone from having no long-term plan whatsoever to approving, hopefully, this agreement tonight. And the vote that we are about to take, to me, is a reminder that despite the complex and often frustratingly opaque machinery of local government, big things, big changes, even systemic ones, are possible. But they don't happen overnight, and they don't happen all at once. They only happen through a series of small incremental steps, and they require the sustained focus to keep taking those steps, even if you can't see the path that you're walking on. Or maybe you can see it, but it's really steep. Or there are a bunch of detours. Or, my favorite one, everyone you pass along the way stops to tell you about the better, easier, quicker path that you should be on instead. When we voted on the I-building, our board at the time, which included Mr. Dauber, we were still emerging from the governance challenges of the COVID pandemic and the associated school closures and reopenings. And as I was thinking about what to say tonight, I realized that I think our experience navigating that unprecedented and impossible situation is partly the reason that we were able to finally get this agreement across the finish line. We just weren't paralyzed by the enormity of the task because it just couldn't possibly be as enormous as what we had just dealt with. We didn't spin around in circles trying to figure out everything at once or address every contingency, because we knew what was the point of doing that. You might have a pandemic and then it all gets thrown up in the air anyways. We just took one step and then we took another step. And by we, I mean the entire governance team. And Dr. Austin, I want to reiterate what my colleagues have said. This agreement does not happen without you as our superintendent. It just doesn't. And thank you for your leadership and for your partnership and your collaboration with City Manager Shikata throughout this process. And I want to thank my colleagues, Ms. DiBrienza and Mr. Durop, for your work on the ad hoc committee. I want to thank our current city council members and all the other boards and city councils that came before this one. And most of all, I want to thank our community for your tireless advocacy, your refusal to let us abdicate our responsibility as public servants to actually serve the public and get something done, and for your patience over the past way too many years. It really does take a village sometimes, and tonight I'm very grateful to be part of this village, and just congratulations to all of us. Now can we vote?
Okay.
Let's get a motion.
I move that we approve the term sheet as presented.
Second. Student board members, preferential vote.
Aye.
Colleagues, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. All right. Now, we have no discussion items, so we're moving on to information items. And we have one comment, Edith Cohen. Okay. Well, then we have no comments. So colleagues, anybody else? Anybody else have anything to say about information items? No. Okay. Board operations? Anybody have any board operations? Anyone? No. Okay, we're all ready to get out of here. Okay. With that, then, we are adjourned.